Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about...
Parker! No, wait. Whoever you are!
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Chris! Cferra! Whoever you are! I have a job for you!
Do you now?
Yes, now get the gum out of your ears and listen up. There's a wall-crawling menace out there called Spider-Man, and I want information on him. I want a complete profile. I want pictures. I want a list of his powers, and I want a list of his past crimes. And I want it to be a spotlight, and I want it 10 minutes ago. Make that 20 minutes ago.
Is that all?
Yes. Do you think I dress like this for my health? Miss Brandt, give him all the information he needs. And we need a new spook factor on the double. We've only made 2 episodes, and I want 10 more before Halloween.
But we just wrote 4 scripts. My fingers are sore.
Love you, honey. And I need a cigar, right now.
You two have a very weird relationship.
Daffy has a point though, I have to admit. I should start focusing on specific characters every once in a while. I mean, my show is called Comics Showcase. There are a lot of things I would like to showcase in these videos, and I just haven't had the time since we've been inundated with event after event and first issue after first issue. So why don't I take a break from it all and focus on characters I like, recommend good stories, talk about bad ones, and why I like a character. It's high time I actually put the name Showcase into my show. I'm thinking of making this a regular thing. We'll see.
Or I could just be doing this video to stall for time until a comic comes along that I really want to talk about. Soon.
The first character I'm going to showcase is none other than the Amazing Spider-Man.
Don't look so shocked, you knew this was coming.
Spidey was created by the legendary writer Stan Lee and equally legendary artist Steve Ditko way back in August 1962's Amazing Fantasy number 15. The character was put into a comic that was going to be cancelled, and Lee decided to make the last feature a teenage superhero with the powers of an arachnid. At the time, no one thought a teenager could be a solo superhero. They were always relegated to being sidekicks or part of a bigger team, like Johnny Storm of the Fantastic Four.
Teenagers being solo superheroes. The very idea. Who would write such a thing?
It's true, for a time people thought that teenagers wouldn't make good superheroes and would never star in books with their names plastered all over the cover. I guess 60s comic readers showed the Marvel bigwigs because it wasn't long after his debut that Spider-Man became the face of the Marvel Universe and their flagship character. Johnny Storm may have been the first successful teenage superhero in the Marvel Universe, but it was his good pal Spidey who struck a chord with readers because of his humanity, humor, and never-say-die attitude. People just loved how relatable he was since he could catch a cold as frequently as he'd catch a crook. He was the hard-luck kid, and everyone loves an underdog.
That's all well and good, but what are his powers? He asks as if he doesn't know already.
Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider that gave him the proportionate strength and speed of an arachnid. He's able to lift up to 10 tons, or perhaps more if he pushes himself hard. He is extremely agile and is hard to hit thanks in part to his spider sense, which is the sort of precognitive ability that warns him when danger is near. The downside is that it never evaluates how much of a danger something is, and can be blocked by either disease, alien, or scientific means. He's also able to adhere to any surface and scale it with ease. Parker is also a scientific genius. He invented a special adhesive which also acts as a sort of webbing. This web fluid is designed to hold criminals captive for about an hour before it dissolves. He also uses it to swing around the city like Tarzan. I don't see many spiders doing that, Peter. At least it gets you from point A to point B. Now, with all these powers, you might think Peter would go right to crime fighting. Nope, he went right to the stage to cash in on his powers. After a performance, he let a robber run by him who had just robbed a venue he was in. Later, the same robber killed his Uncle Ben, and young Peter learned a very valuable lesson.
Say it with me, Internet. With great power comes great responsibility.
From that moment on, Peter decided to use his gifts to help people because it was the right thing to do. Sometimes it cost him his relationships with ladies, families, and friends. Sometimes he had to go into action even if he didn't feel well. It is this conflict, among others, that has made the Amazing Spider-Man last as long as he has. And if I got the stories to prove it.
With over 50 years of stories, I think I'm gonna stick with one good one and one bad one. And no, the bad one is not one more day or one moment in time. That dead horse has been beaten so much that I don't think anyone can recognize what it used to be.
Let's get the bad one out of the way because it's just plain gross and wrong on so many levels. The story in question took place a couple years before the infamous Deal with Mephisto and was called Sin's Past. The story involved the twin children of Gwen Stacy returning to play the wall crawler. Gwen was a former girlfriend of Peter who unfortunately met her end at the hands of the Green Goblin in the classic tale The Night Gwen Stacy Died. She was thrown off of the George Washington Bridge, and Spidey couldn't save her as the shock from the fall killed her, even though some might say he did it by webbing her feet and thus snapping her neck. There have been a lot of debate about it, and I personally think the fall alone killed her. Her death signaled the end of the Silver Age of comics, and the beginning of the grittier Bronze Age. Writer J. Michael Straczynski later introduced us to two characters with a connection to Gwen and the classic storyline in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man 509 to 514. Meet Gabriel and Sarah Stacy, Gwen's twins. Now, you might be wondering who the father is. Here's where it gets gross. The father is none other than Norman Osborn, the first Green Goblin, and Spider-Man's arch nemesis. Apparently he had a relationship with Gwen while she was in France in the months prior to her death in the comics. She gave birth, and the twins were artificially aged due to some tinkering on the part of Norman.
Mad science in the Marvel Universe strikes again. Is there anything it can't do?
The two eventually make the scene in New York, and of course attack Spidey since they blame him for their mother's death, and also claim that Peter was their father. If you think this is an episode of Maury, you ain't seen nothing yet. After the initial tussle, Pete goes to Gwen's grave, gets a DNA sample, and works to prove whether or not what the twins claim is true. He talks to his wife about what happened, and MJ admits that Gwen confided in her about the twins' existence and how she had an affair with Norman.
That is good character assassination.
Peter has another confrontation with the twins and tries to explain the situation to them. He explained how he couldn't have been the kid's father because he and Gwen hadn't reached that stage in their relationship. Sarah reluctantly believes him while her brother didn't and accidentally shoots his sister. He runs off to one of the Green Goblin's secret lairs, takes the Goblin formula which stabilizes his aging process at the cost of his sanity, and becomes the Grey Goblin. Are you following any of this? Because this is just weird. If you want, you can just skip ahead to the good story right now. Meanwhile, Sarah is taken to a hospital to be treated for her wounds, and Peter gives her a transfusion that stabilizes her own aging issues temporarily. Grey Goblin shows up, and Sarah ends up shooting her brother after realizing Spidey wasn't the father and didn't cause Gwen's death. There was an explosion, and both children fled the scene. Later, they're found in Paris, with Gabriel suffering from amnesia, and Sarah joining Interpol in the hope that they can help her with her own rapid aging problems. The response to this storyline was negative, to say the least. Characters were written out of character. The story tarnished the reputation of Gwen Stacy, who many saw as the girl next door who was incapable of cheating on Peter. To have her have a relationship with Spidey's #1 adversary was a huge slap in the face, too. Many saw it as a huge disservice to a character many held in high regard. Eventually this led to J. Michael Straczynski wanting to retcon the story out of existence by the time One More Day and Brand New Day rolled around. It was denied, and for all we know, Gwen's twins are still out there in the Marvel Universe, even after one more day, rapidly aging. Let's hope we never see those two again. I applaud Straczynski for trying to get rid of the story. Sadly, the damage was done, and Gwen's memory now has this black mark.
Now that we're suitably briefed out about Sin's past, let's talk about a story I do recommend.
There's so many Spidey stories I love. There's Spider Island, the saga of the alien costume, Venom, Kraven's Last Hunt, when he officially joined the Avengers, and so many more. It's hard for me to pick just one that stands out the most in his history. So many writers have made so many great stories over the years, and I've only talked about a small percentage of them. I've talked about The Wedding of Spider-Man and how awesome that was. I've talked about Superior Spider-Man, and I will grant it this, it was indeed better than Sin's Past. I've even talked about Maximum Carnage in my very first video. If I had to pick a good story I've never talked about, I would say check out Spider-Verse, as it's recent and was a fun read from start to finish. Written by Dan Slott, Spider-Verse is considered by many to be a love letter to Spider-Man's storied history, by having every iteration of Spider-Man since his creation appear in a battle for their very survival. The story has every version of Spider-Man that has ever appeared in any form of media show up. We're talking about the version from the 1967 cartoon, the one from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and Spider-Ham, among others. Yes, there is a pig version of Spider-Man. Just go with it. Marvel has a talking raccoon with a machine gun. You can't pass judgment on Spider-Ham.
He was Spider-Pig before the Simpsons made it cool. I can't pull off this hipster thing, can I?
The plot centers around a villain named Morlun and his evil family called the Inheritors. They traveled from reality to reality, hunting and actually eating Spider-Men because their essence gives them great power. Don't ask me how. They are superpowered cannibals. Our heroes get wind of the strange goings-on when the disembodied mind of the superior Spider-Man finds himself surrounded by the bodies of various Spider-Men with similar wounds. He then assembles a team of Spider-Men to hunt down the killers. Elsewhere, various Spider-related characters were having their own problems. A version of Spider-Man 2099 from the Exiles book was having nightmares and eventually died in front of the core of Spider-Man 2099. Just as he tried to warn him about the big bad. Spider-Man UK watched in horror as Morlun himself killed the Spider-Man from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
That was not cool. I love that show. Can anyone stop him?
Spider-Man UK, by the way, is a new member of the Captain Britain Corps. He talks to his bosses Lady Roma and Saturnine about what's been going on since they guard all realities. Saturnine is ambivalent, and Roma hands him a special talisman. She tells him to go travel through the web of life and save the spiders. He takes off and saves the May Parker Spider-Girl and brother Ben. They're Peter and MJ's kids from an alternate future. For more on them, check out MC2. Great reads, trust me. May vows revenge on Morlun since his cannibalistic family killed her parents.
With so much death and destruction, you have to wonder why I like the storyline so much. I'll get to it, I promise.
As it turns out, Morlun and his family have been actively avoiding a specific thread that leads to Earth 616, the home of our Spider-Man. It seems Morlun's afraid to go there since a version of himself lost to Spidey and was killed. He eats cartoon characters and he can't handle the original Spidey? Whatever. Speaking of our hero, he gets wind of what's been going on when Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, and Spider-Man 2099 talk to him about the situation. The conversation is interrupted by a battle between Spider-Man UK and some of Morlun's thugs. After the fight, Spider UK informs Peter that he is the center of the Great Web and that they need his help to stop that crazy family.
At this point, Peter is probably begging for the clones to return. Oh, don't worry, one does show up. You think we'd be that lucky?
Peter agrees, and the group finds himself on a world that Morlun's family would never visit since that Spider-Man has cosmic powers. He's shocked to find that the superior Spider-Man is there, and is working with his own team of Spider-Men. Reluctantly, the Spiders agree to work together. After a fair bit of battling by hopping from reality to reality, Peter decided that he had enough, and that it was time to take the fight to Morlun. At first he's hesitant to have Spider-Gwen, a version of Gwen Stacy who got spider powers instead of Peter, help in the fight. She proves herself to be different from the Gwen he knew, and while she understands his loss and concern, she ended up being a very valuable asset to the team. The Army raid Loom World, Morlun's home base, with the help of Karn, a member of the family who saw the error of his ways. Spider-Girl threatens to destroy the crystal containing the Master Weaver of the Web of Life's soul, and changes her mind after realizing that heroes don't kill. She decides this after Superior Spider-Man kills the Master Weaver of the Web and causes the fabric of reality to unwind. Smooth. In the end, the Inheritors are banished to a reality that has internal nuclear winter. Their only hope for survival is to live in a bunker forever in order to avoid death by radiation. Everyone then bids farewell to each other, and all the spiders are saved.
By the way, this is just the Cliff Notes version of the story. The actual story takes place over several miniseries. It's a daunting task, but it's well worth the read. Check it out.
I picked Spider-Verse as one of the best Spidey stories out there to talk about because almost every version of Spider-Man got the chance to shine, from Spider-Ham to even the Super Sentai version of Spider-Man, who, by the way, has a giant robot named Leopardon. Thank you, Japan! Despite various versions of Spidey meeting unfortunate ends, we got to see decent action from guys like Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales, who had a fun adventure with the 1967 animated Spidey and the Spider-Man from the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. The story also had a decent moral. Sometimes you need to ally yourself with the Dark Forces in order to win the day, even if the Dark Forces is a mad scientist possessing your body. The storyline was just really fun because not only do we see almost every iteration of Spider-Man ever, we also see the history of the wall crawler unfold before our very eyes. We see how he was portrayed over the years in different comics, TV shows, and cartoons. If this event came out in 2012, it would have been the perfect 50th anniversary storyline for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Spider-Verse is a must-read for any Spidey fan. Check it out.
I wonder if we'll ever see a live-action version of Spider-Verse with all the actors who played Spider-Man throughout the years in it. That would be kind of awesome.
Out of all the characters in the Marvel Universe, Spider-Man is my favorite, not just because he was one of the first superheroes I remember seeing when I was a kid. He is the everyman. He cracks jokes in order to keep himself from being too scared, and when the going gets tough, he never, ever gives up. He fights for his friends, loved ones, and even perfect strangers. He tries to balance being a superhero with his personal life. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. It's still fun to read. He never asks for rewards or even thanks. That's just who Spidey is. He's a kid from Queens who became an icon for every slightly nerdy kid to look up to and say that even when things are rough, there is always a way to come out on top. As corny as it sounds, the "with great power" bit is actually a good moral guideline to learn. If you have the power to affect change in a positive way, do it, because you never know what may happen. Throughout the years, writers of Spider-Man have kept this whole mentality going, as generations of people grew up watching the wall crawler on the screens, played the games, collected the toys, and of course, read his adventures. Spidey to me will always be the hero I watched every Saturday morning when I was a kid. He was a wisecracking hero who just made the day brighter, and today, the tradition continues. I learned a lot about how to deal with the trials of life by watching him on TV, and eventually reading his comics. Sure, Superman is great, and Captain America is the symbol for all things awesome. It's Spider-Man and the various lessons the writers have taught me over the years that have kept me as a fan. The same could be said for anyone who has ever read The Adventures of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That's not a bad legacy for a character publishers were hesitant to publish back in 1962, you've got to admit. Stan Lee and others made it work, and all these years later, Spidey is still making kids everywhere happy by cracking jokes and showing them how to persevere when the going gets tough. His courage, determination, and enduring spirit have captivated readers for decades, and despite not always getting what he wants, he remains a hero for now and for many years to come. That, my friends, is why I like The Amazing Spider-Man.
So, what do you think of that, J. Jonah Jameson?
It was good. Wait, no. I want pictures! I want pictures of Spider-Man! I want pictures of Spider-Man right now! I will pay top dollar for a picture of Spider-Man! Wait, not top dollar. I'll pay about $50. Make that $20. And make that $10. And actually, I won't pay top dollar for pictures of Spider-Man. I just want pictures. I want pictures right now. I want pictures of Spider-Man, and I want pictures of Spider-Man doing all types of things. I want pictures of Spider-Man in bed. I want pictures of Spider-Man eating dinner. I want pictures of Spider-Man with my wife. Scratch that. I want pictures of me with my wife. Scratch that. I don't want pictures of...
Yeah, I'm gonna have Laura switch you to decaf. See you on the funny pages, everyone.